Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest gruesome and grotesque video. As always, I just do these videos randomly when I come across something that I read online, either through the Google News app or through other various media or news outlets out there, such as the case with this gruesome story that I read about early last year that I took a screenshot of and I decided to save it for later on when there was more news associated with it. So here I am essentially now showcasing it here for this playlist. The reason why I saved it is because this was a very gruesome ending associated with this man's life. And this was totally something that is almost due to fate, almost like a snap of a finger, if but for the fact one single incident occurred, compounded by another smaller incident, then he basically would not have ended up in the belly of a shark. So that's why I picked this and I saw this and I took a screenshot of it because it just goes to show again how things drastically change in just a moment, one single moment in someone's life, and then that's it. It's something else that ends to this gruesome and grotesque fate. But it has to do with this. It's about the man who left on a quad bike, but then was found in a shark's belly. So let's go ahead and let's talk about all the information associated with this gruesome tale. I'll give my own thoughts and opinions on it as well. Those of you that are from this locale that I'll mention here in just a moment, let me know if there's more information, local information to share there in the comments. So here's essentially what happened. You have to go back to last year, early last year, February 18th to be specific. So February 18th, 2023. That's when this occurred there in an area in southern Argentina called Chubut. So those of you that are there in that local level, let me know if you have again more information there. But apparently there's a beach that's located there, and on top of that, this beach has some beautiful rock formations surrounding it. In fact, those rock formations are called rocas coloradas, which basically translates to colored rocks. So the idea is this is a beautiful tourist spot to be able to go about and walk about and then also see those sights and then be clear of the beach in of itself. I don't know if people essentially go into the beach, like the waters of the beach. Some of you that are getting on a local level, let me know on that too. But otherwise, the rock formations surrounding it create a very interesting landscape. But apparently, what other people do there as well is what this guy was doing. You're looking at a picture of him now. His name was Diego Barria. He was 32 years old at the time. He was a father of three. He had a wife by the name of Virginia. And the way the story goes, he had apparently left to go to this beach along with his quad bike. I believe he took the ride as his quad bike. Like in other words, he instead of driving there in a car with the quad bike being towed, I think he just actually drove the quad bike there because none of the articles were stating afterwards anything involving like a missing vehicle or something like that. So in any case, he had taken this quad bike over to the beach, texting his wife that he would come back home late in the day. And the idea was that, yeah, he was just going to be riding around that quad bike around that beach. As you can see again from these pictures now of this location, I guess you can kind of do that there. Like it seems like the terrain is flat enough for something along those lines, but you can also see that there's some spots there that could be dangerous, especially if, let's say, it starts getting darker, maybe towards the evening, maybe towards the night, and then all of a sudden you don't see those deeper spots, and then there you are driving around very fast speed associated with the quad bike, whatever it can handle, whatever it can't handle. Somewhere along the way, though, the going theory is this. At one point, somewhere, this quad bike that this guy Diego was driving ended up wrecking. The reason why people believe that's what happened was because when the quad bike was found afterward, there was noticeable damage linked to it. So something happened where he was able to drive it, but then it ended up becoming wrecked. How that happened, who knows? My own basis, just reading all this information, is that I think again there was something there, like something along the lines of a little spot, some little pothole area where he didn't catch it quick enough, and then it ended up catching one of the tires and then causing him to wreck. Or it could have been something else. One of the tires that may have gotten actually deflated or blew up, something along those lines. But either way, though, the whole point was the actual quad bike was wrecked, and you can picture what happened next. He ended up going flying somewhere, and then with these rocky areas right there, as much as it seems like they are beautiful to look at and walk about, it's a whole different situation again when you're driving a quad bike at a high speed and it ends up wrecking. I don't think he was wearing a helmet, too. I don't know again if this is true or not. I'm just going by gut knowledge on here. But if that's what occurred, like he wasn't wearing his helmet, you can just imagine what happened next. He ended up flipping over, and then what had happened was somewhere along the way, he hit his head somewhere, and maybe he was unconscious, maybe something more serious happened, or maybe he became deceased right then and there. Nobody knows for sure, unfortunately, because there were no other witnesses around that spot. It gives me the notion again that I think this must have happened late in the day, probably more towards the nighttime period. Nobody else would be out there because somebody would have found him by then, even if they were just even just a small handful of tourists out there. But nobody did. Nobody saw anything. Nobody heard anything. And so when that quad bike was wrecked, I'm thinking that he went flying. He hit his head in a serious manner somewhere. He was clearly knocked out, or maybe even put into a coma, or maybe even became deceased right there. But there he was with his body right there. Now, the reason why his body wasn't found immediately and why it ended up being in a shark's belly, of all things, is because of this. Apparently, that location does have that beach right next to it, right? Well, apparently that beach has tides that go in and go out. And on that particular weekend, there was a tidal surge that was happening. So the authorities there who were doing the investigation think, and this is them going on the lines of paving the area, using drones, in fact, as well, to try to see if there was some other type of information involved. Because what had happened too was after he never went home, of course, his wife alerted the authorities, and between that time period of the 18th, 19th, up to the 20th, and so on, they were doing a search, an extensive search for him, looking around and about using drones, as I mentioned, but they were not able to find him. But in either case, the tidal area, that area around there, does have a tidal surge. And when that happened, the authorities believe that the tidal surge came in and then basically carried his body away too. The theory is that as well, because the quad bike was found in another area where presumably it was different from where it was wrecked. You can just imagine the powers of the waters there too. It basically dragged the quad bike to a different spot. So if it could do that to a heavy piece of machinery like that, imagine a man's body who has a lighter weight, what it could do to that. So the tidal surge came in, dragged the waters out, and unfortunately, the rest is history because surrounding those beaches, traveling about, are these things right there. These are known as school sharks, but they're also known as topi sharks, snapper sharks, soupfin sharks. Strange set of names, right? But that's essentially what it is. And they are found within those waters around that area as well. And so, somewhere along the way, one of those sharks must have been traveling along, swimming about, and they can grow up to 6 feet in length. So, they definitely have a healthy appetite when it comes to trying to find food, and then they saw the body there. And so when that happened, this school shark, this particular one, decided to have a free meal right there, and then the rest is history. The body of this missing man was there. Diego Barrera was essentially there within the belly of the shark right afterwards. Now, if you're wondering, well, how did people find out? How did they find out that it was within the belly of the shark? Well, here's what happened of all things afterwards, too. Cut to a little while later, and surrounding that area, too, are fishermen. These are fishermen who basically go there every single day to catch some of these sharks or other forms of fish as well. And one of them ended up catching the shark. The reason they do this as well is because the shark provides various resources. It is hunted in that area not just for its flesh, but also for its fins and its liver, as that apparently has a very high source of vitamin A contact. So, a rich set of resources associated with this one animal. Well, this particular shark ended up becoming caught, killed, basically became food for someone else. And what had happened was when the fishermen were gutting the shark, that's when they realized this grim and gruesome discovery inside. This is exactly what one of the fishermen stated when they were giving an audio message by WhatsApp to some of the local media outlets. This is their direct quote. I was so unlucky that I found him inside a shark. I went fishing and I opened the shark's belly and found a forearm with a tattoo. And so we picked things up, we went to the authorities, and it was him. He had a rose on his forearm that said Josephina. So that's essentially how this was tied to the missing man with regards to what was found within the shark, because Diego Barrera had that tattoo on his forearm. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, his wife's name was Virginia, and she was able to properly identify that that was him. Like that was essentially what was associated for his forearm and what was associated with his tattoo. Now, there was some DNA testing that was going to be done afterwards too by the authorities, but the fact again that everything just seems to tie to it, everyone realized that that's what occurred to this missing man. So his body was essentially found by the shark. It was eaten, and then the shark in turn was caught by some fishermen to be eaten and then used for resources afterward. And then that's when parts of his body were there in the belly of the shark, identifiable ones, showcasing him as the missing man. Gruesome, gruesome fate. Again, I mentioned at the beginning, all it takes is one single incident for everything in someone's life to change. This guy would have had no idea whatsoever. If you had told him at the beginning of the day that he was going to end up inside the belly of a shark, he would have laughed at you. He would have said, "No way, absolutely. What are the odds are that?" But that's essentially what happened to him. He went to that beach, he rode his quad bike, he happened to hit that one single pothole like whatever it was stone structure there on the ground that caused the quad bike to be wrecked, and then his body would have been found if not for the fact that the tidal surge came in and then dragged it away. And then on top of that, compounding things, was the shark finding him at the right place at the right time. Gruesome, gruesome stuff. But let me know what you guys and gals think about this as well. Any more information, anything else I might have missed, post it in those comments below. What a crazy way to go. But again, it just goes to show, be careful out there whenever you're riding these type of dangerous equipment, and that stuff is especially compounded whenever you're there in an area that has such rocky terrain and obviously dangerous territory there in the beaches with all those sharks. So be careful, everyone out there. That's all I can say. So all right, everyone, thanks again as always. Take care. Bye.